I'm Tash.
And I'm Simon.
Welcome to Venture Church Online. Today we gather in our venture communities,
which is a chance for us to journey more deeply with one another.
And today we continue in the book of Romans as we look at the question, how can we find rest in a stressful world?
And this week we have Alex and Lois, two of our Venture Church community leaders, joining us to share from Romans chapter 5.
But before we hear from them, here are the notices.
Because tomorrow is a bank holiday, May's Monday night prayer meeting has been moved to Monday the 13th of May at 7:45 at St Thomas's, Hotspur. We'd love to see you there. The next Friday night feast takes place on the 17th of May and is all about moulding culture. Scan the QR code on your screen now to sign up and join us for that evening. We have a really exciting opportunity to be an early intervention coach with Transforming Lives for Good to help the students at the Beaconsfield School. Today is the deadline to sign up to be part of this, and if you missed the meeting after the service last week but still want to know more, why don't you get in contact with Ian or Steph? Email hello@venturechurch.org.uk to find out more. Next week, we'll be back at the Beaconsfield School at 10:30, where we'll be looking at the idea of freedom once again in the book of Romans. Join us there for refreshments from 10 a.m. Keep in touch with the life of the church at our website, www.venturechurch.org.uk. That's the notices.
Good morning. My name is Alex, and along with my wife Lois and my daughter Neve, we've been part of Venture Church for 2 years. This morning we are going to be spending a bit of time thinking about peace, which is such a huge topic. There are so many self-help books written about how can I achieve an inner peace. We look around us, our culture earnestly desires it. We look around the world and we just instinctively mourn the different conflicts that we see across the Middle East, in Sudan, in the Congo, in Ukraine, wherever it is, we have this great sense that things are not quite as they should be. We hear so many voices, there's so much noise around this question about how do I understand peace? How do I know peace? That for some people, it can seem strange that we would be delving into a letter written to a small church in Rome, just over around 2,000 years ago. But that is where we're going to look today to search for some answers that can help to guide us. How can we live at peace in a turbulent world? So the first point is that peace comes from being in right relationship with God. In Romans 5, Paul says, "Therefore, since we have been justified through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand." The context in which Paul is talking about peace here is related to justification, which just means getting right with God, being in the right relationship with God. And it specifically relates to Abraham, and Abraham being justified by faith. To those of us who've grown up in the church, that can sound incredibly trite. It's sort of a self-obvious thing that we've heard so many times that it begins to lose its meaning. But if God is the truest form of being, if he is the foundation on which everything rests, how can I find peace anywhere else other than in God? The theologian Paul Tillich uses a phrase to describe God. He calls him the ground of being. And I want to live in accordance with the ground of being. I want to be at peace with that, with the ground of being, with the cause behind the cause. He who is reliant on no other. We cannot achieve peace with that God, with the infinite God, through our own strength and intellect. By very definition, that's not possible. And the beautiful news that Paul tells us that it's through Jesus that we can come into relationship with God, and find that peace. There's one thing that I always struggle with that I hear when people talking, and particularly in sort of self-help books, which is, you need to find peace within yourself. You need to look within yourself to find peace. If I look within myself, like I am the problem. I am the source of my lack of peace, of my various issues. So it's always seemed logically strange to me that I would look inside of myself to find a solution there. And I actually find great relief that it's only by looking outside of myself in relationship with Jesus that I can find peace, true, deep, long-lasting, eternal peace in relationship with God, the ground of being. The second point is that peace should be pursued in the church, in the community, and in the world. In Romans 12, Paul says, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Paul is writing to a church who are in Rome, in the middle of the preeminent global empire, whose the basis of that empire was the Pax Romana. So submit to Rome and you will know peace economically, politically, societally. We know that the Jews living in Rome had been expelled under the Emperor Claudius, that they had then returned and had returned to the church that was now full of Gentiles. And whilst there being a lot of beauty in the Jews and the Gentiles coming together within the church, it was also causing a huge amount of friction. And that's really the context into which Paul is writing in the book of Romans. So it's no trite Hallmark card idea for Paul to say to these people who are being, have been persecuted and are being persecuted and will be persecuted more in the future, for him to say to them to live at peace with those around you. And indeed, building on the words of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the peacemakers. Paul sees this as a key part of the witness of the early church to those around them, that they should be seeking peace within the church and in the community and in the broader global empire. A really interesting example of somebody who lived their life in deep communion with God, knowing a great inner peace, who was then able to use that relationship with God to influence things around them in their country. Was a man called Nicholas of Fleury. He was a farmer in the 15th century in Switzerland. Later in his life, he sought permission from his family to go and live as a hermit. He only ate Holy Communion, so it is said. And he became to be known as a wise man, as a mediator, and as a peacemaker. In 1481, the leaders of the different cantons in Switzerland came to him to ask for his guidance as they were thinking about expanding the country and what the political settlement might look like. And there's a couple of things from his life that I just want to highlight to us as we go on to thinking about our lives and what they look like here in 2024. So first is he had such a deep intimacy with God, and that gave him a freedom to speak with authority into different situations. He was known for being able to get people to acknowledge their wrongs without humiliating them. And in doing so, he was able to open up pathways to reconciliation. He was able to describe to people, to say that they should operate, that the pursuit of peace should be the foundation of the unity of the nascent Swiss state. And rather than just trying to play off interests against each other, he said to them that the common good and the pursuit of peace should be the basis of what you are pursuing as part of your settlement as a country. So what does all of this mean for us living somewhere around the A40 in 2024? We're hearing that Paul is saying that peace is about being in right relationship with God. We're hearing that that has implications on how we live within the church, within our communities, and in the broader world. So as we spend time in our groups this morning, let's reflect on what this means. How am I experiencing peace with God? And what does it look like in the spheres of influence that I have where I am now, in my family, at work, in the church, in my sports club, in the community around? Am I known for being somebody with a deep peace which is rooted in relationship with God, and who has a wisdom that spills over from that into being able to bring peace and speak peace into different situations?